You're in America now, and we don't give a shit about you. You're not our fucking prince. You'll never be king. We hate your wife. Stay at home in your $29 million mansion. All right.
There are growing calls to strip Harry and Meghan of their royal titles. The New York Post is reporting that locals in the UK say enough is enough, especially after Prince Harry's disastrous BBC interview, which aired hours after he lost his appeal for taxpayer.
Something felt off from the start. The second quiet whispers started drifting through Westminster. It was clear something serious was brewing.
It's not a financial thing. Working royals do not profit. They do not use their names to make money. It's an honour to have an HRH.
Absolutely.
So the fact that she's continued to use this HRH when they've been instructed not to, I think is absolutely infuriating in Buckingham Palace. It was agreed with Queen Elizabeth that they will not use the HRH title. That is a long-standing precedent, and there's good reason for it. Basically, the HRH is only given to working royals and senior members of the royal family.
At first, it looked like the usual messy headline. Prince Harry versus the Crown again. Another round of royal tension where nobody even knows who's really fighting anymore. But then, boom, a real petition suddenly appeared. And this wasn't some random rant online or a celebrity losing control on social media. This landed straight in serious political territory.
Oh my God, I can't even. These two, Meghan and Harry, are the worst.
Now powerful voices were openly discussing Prince Harry's royal title. It could actually be stripped away. The move didn't come from gossip blogs or palace insiders either. It came from the House of Lords, the upper chamber of the British Parliament. That's the elite political circles stepping directly into the drama this time. And that shifts everything. This isn't palace PR spinning stories or tabloids chasing clicks. The conversation is about a genuine push to remove Prince Harry's royal title, the final thread still connecting him to the royal family he chose to step away from. And if anyone thinks this is just another flashy headline, think again. This situation touches power, legacy, and a huge question hanging in the air.
Harry's digging an even bigger hole for himself here.
Well, I think he's dug so deep now, he'll strike water any day now.
Can someone walk away from royal duties, move across the ocean to California, build a brand tied to that royal identity, and still keep a title linked to the crown? This is no longer just a family dispute. It's starting to look like a constitutional clash. The same country that once admired him, the young prince walking behind Princess Diana's coffin, the soldier prince many people respected. Now that same nation is watching a completely different chapter unfold.
I just can't stand her. I just think she's such a phony.
And this time, it's not tabloids throwing punches. Parliament itself is stepping in, and that changes the entire game. What started with the whole Megxi drama has now blown up into a full-blown crisis about loyalty, identity, and exactly where Prince Harry truly stands. If this petition actually goes through, Prince Harry would not just lose a title, he could lose the final official link tying him to the monarchy. That is massive. It would mean the last royal thread connecting him to the institution he once represented could suddenly disappear. But before diving deeper into this explosive situation, make sure you tap subscribe and stay locked in. Because what unfolds next in this story is seriously shocking.
A new poll by Find Out Now has revealed that most of the public is supporting the king in this family feud, ongoing family feud, after Harry's bombshell BBC interview. It follows the Court of Appeal's decision to not overturn the ruling on his security in the UK.
At first glance, the whole thing sounded like pure clickbait. One of those wild headlines people scroll past because it feels too dramatic to be real. But this time it isn't rumours, it isn't internet chatter, and it definitely isn't some random hashtag trending for a few hours. This situation is unfolding inside the House of Lords, one of the oldest pillars of royal tradition in the United Kingdom. Now there is real discussion about stripping Prince Harry of the Duke of Sussex title. This isn't online backlash or comment section outrage. These are senior lawmakers stepping directly into the spotlight. And these are not people who chase internet drama. These are figures dealing with history, power, and the rules surrounding the monarchy. But here is the twist everyone keeps whispering about. Reports claim Harry is furious, not slightly annoyed, not quietly disappointed, but genuinely angry. Because that title is not just a fancy label attached to his name. That title opens doors. Hollywood meetings, major business deals, elite circles. The Duke title carries weight everywhere he goes. Remove it, and a lot of that influence could fade quickly. For many watching closely, this move does not look like a small warning. It looks like the first domino tipping in a much larger collapse of Harry's royal identity. Seeing Parliament even consider this direction feels like the establishment finally drawing a line.
She's slaughtered this weekend because there were some business cards in the back of one of her podcasts. She's still using her royal title, HRH, despite our late Queen warning her against.
The once celebrated prince could now be staring at one of the toughest moments of his public life. And this is not just one politician pushing an idea. The petition behind this story exploded almost overnight. Tens of thousands of people reportedly added their names. Within days, from Sussex all the way to Scotland, voices across the United Kingdom started rising up. At that point, it stopped sounding like background chatter and started looking like a real movement. What once felt like distant noise suddenly turned into something people in power had to pay attention to. Parliament is not brushing this off either. Both the House of Lords and the House of Commons are now being pulled into the discussion, and that is when many observers realise this situation is getting very serious. And here is where the story takes an even more intense turn. The push against Harry is no longer just angry opinions or heated debates online. Critics are pointing directly to a real law with deep history behind it.
Prince William, he's reportedly furious after it emerged that Meghan Markle is still using her HRH title despite agreeing to drop the title when the Sussexes left royal duties.
I think Meghan Markle has been very brazen recently with the use of the HRH.
It is called the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917, a law so old it was last used during World War I. Back then, the law allowed the Crown to remove royal titles from members of the royal family who were seen as acting against Britain during wartime. That shows just how serious this law is. Now, some critics are bringing that same law back into the conversation. They argue that while Harry's actions may not break any law on paper, many people feel it still damages the image and stability of the royal institution.
I would love reconciliation with my family. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile. If they don't want that, that's entirely up to them.
Across the country, frustration has slowly been building. Many people say they are tired of watching someone openly criticize the monarchy while still benefiting from the prestige and influence tied to a royal title. To them, this debate is not about hurt feelings or simple disrespect. It raises a bigger question. Should someone step away from royal duties, speak publicly against the institution, and still carry the royal branding everywhere they go? What started as loud criticism from the public is now turning into real political pressure. And when strong public opinion and political leaders begin lining up on the same side, situations like this can escalate very quickly. But here is where the controversy truly explodes. After leaving the United Kingdom, Harry did not simply disappear into a quiet private life. Instead of quietly fading into private life, Harry became extremely outspoken.
He's a duplicitous, self-centered, vile, disloyal hypocrite.
Through major interviews and high-profile appearances in the United States, he started sharing strong opinions that immediately raised eyebrows among many royal observers. Traditionally, members of the British royal family are expected to stay politically neutral. That rule has always been a huge part of protecting the monarchy's image.
But she said she was in the trenches. She alludes to being in the trenches when she was in the British royal family. Girl, you lived in a castle. Like, you got a princess title. People were falling at your feet. People would run your bathwater for you. I mean, I could list the things, the perks. I could list them forever. The trenches. She has got to. The Delulu is on another level. Sometimes I envy it.
But critics argue Harry stepped directly into conversations that are deeply political in nature and that instantly made the situation far more complicated. Some lawmakers and commentators have even started using a sharp phrase, title laundering. The term has been popping up more and more in discussions around this situation. What they mean by it is the idea that Harry could be benefiting from the influence and prestige of a royal title while speaking publicly on political and social issues overseas. For many traditional royal watchers, that crosses a serious line. Historically, British royals avoid getting pulled into political battles abroad. Yet Harry still carries the title Duke of Sussex, and that direct link to the crown keeps this controversy heating up day after day.
It's not a financial thing. Working royals do not profit. They do not use their names to make money. It's an honour to have an HRH.
Absolutely.
So the fact that she's continued to use this HRH when they've been instructed not to, I think is absolutely infuriating in Buckingham Palace. It was agreed with Queen Elizabeth that they will not use the HRH title. That is a long-standing precedent, and there's good reason for it. Basically, the HRH is only given to working royals and senior members of the royal family.
Now the debate is no longer happening quietly behind palace walls. Members of Parliament are stepping forward publicly and asking a blunt question. Why is a British duke living overseas weighing in on political debates happening in the United States? For many officials, this goes beyond royal etiquette. They argue it could turn into a real problem if royal titles start appearing inside political arguments in other countries. Because once a royal title starts being viewed as a political tool, critics warn the entire system protecting the monarchy's neutrality could begin to shake. From Harry's perspective, he may believe he is simply speaking openly about issues he cares about. But inside Parliament, some leaders are interpreting those actions in a completely different way.
There is no trust when it comes to Prince Harry. And the picture he tries to paint with Queen Elizabeth, even saying during that BBC interview that the Queen wanted him to have this level of security, we're finding out the truth. And it's that she was bothered by them.
To many critics, this whole situation feels like the rules surrounding royal titles are being pushed to their limits. From their point of view, the long-standing traditions that protect the monarchy are now being openly tested. And because of that, the reaction from lawmakers is starting to grow stronger. Inside political circles, discussions are heating up around historic laws, royal customs, and the boundaries of what someone holding a royal title should, or should not, be doing in public life.
But of course, the real measure of success of both of them will be the same as it always has been. How much damage can they inflict on our royal family, on our monarchy? I said it before, I'll say it again tonight. King Charles should strip them of all their remaining titles and cast them out from any connection to the royal family. How could any of them trust them, as far as I could throw them? Because without it, they're just whining millennial windbags with a permanent victim complex, knowing that victimhood is what makes them all the money.
At the same time, many observers point out something else. Since stepping away from official royal duties, Harry has continued speaking publicly about the monarchy again and again. From the explosive Oprah interview to the Netflix series and later his memoir Spare, he has shared deeply personal stories about life inside the royal family. At first, millions of people were curious. Many were eager to hear his side of the story and understand what really happened behind palace doors.
Major breaking news out of London. Buckingham Palace announcing Harry and Meghan will no longer formally represent the Queen. That means they will no longer receive public funds and they will stop using their royal titles. Those changes will take effect this spring.
But as time went on, critics began to argue that the steady stream of revelations about family tensions started pushing the situation into uncomfortable territory. Some longtime supporters have even admitted the repeated criticism of family members, including his father, his brother, and others connected to the royal household, began to feel less like healing and more like a public feud that keeps getting bigger. And the more these stories circulate, the more pressure starts building around Harry's royal title. Now Parliament is beginning to say out loud what many people across the United Kingdom have been thinking for quite some time. The message coming from critics is blunt. You cannot step away from the royal household, publicly criticize the institution again and again, and still expect to hold the same royal title as if nothing ever changed. Lawmakers and commentators argue that Prince Harry has continued using the Duke of Sussex title while living in California and speaking openly about the monarchy.
She is relentless, she is shameless, and she is exhausting. You are not a successful female entrepreneur.
To them, that creates a serious contradiction. Some members of Parliament are even describing the entire situation in dramatic terms. Critics say the issue is not about criminal behavior at all. Instead, they argue it comes down to symbolism and respect for the institution that granted the title in the first place. For years, the monarchy itself stayed mostly quiet while the controversy swirled around Prince Harry. But now that politicians are stepping into the conversation, it looks like patience inside parts of Parliament is starting to run thin. And when lawmakers begin speaking this openly and directly, people start paying very close attention. Public opinion across the United Kingdom also appears to be shifting. Several polls suggest that a growing number of people believe Harry should no longer hold the title Duke of Sussex, Some surveys even show more than half of respondents supporting that idea.
A progressive new role within the royal family. While the royal family does modernise, I mean, the Queen sends tweets, it is an age-old institution. And I think that idea of tradition and everything we expect of the monarchy doesn't quite sit well with that idea.
Among older and more traditional voters, the support for removing the title reportedly climbs even higher. What makes the situation even more striking is what has been happening in Sussex itself, the very region connected to his title. Some residents there have reportedly been adding their names to petitions and speaking out publicly. One resident summed up the feeling in a comment that quickly spread across media discussion, saying, "He doesn't represent us anymore, he represents himself." That remark caught a lot of attention because it captured the frustration many critics say they feel. While Harry still attracts interest and support in parts of the United States, the atmosphere back in the UK appears far more divided.
The hypocrisy is beyond anything I've ever seen.
In many circles across Britain, the mood has clearly shifted into something much more complicated. For many critics, the frustration is not simply about Harry deciding to step away from royal duties. Most people understand that leaving the role was ultimately his personal choice. According to several commentators and lawmakers, the real anger comes from a different concern. They argue that Harry stepped away from the royal system, criticised it publicly on multiple occasions, and yet still benefits from the global recognition that comes with the royal brand. To those critics, it feels like trying to stand in two worlds at once, and many now believe that situation cannot continue forever. Even some individuals who once defended Harry are starting to change their tone. They say the problem is not just one interview or one moment of controversy. Instead, it is the build-up of years of headlines, major interviews, personal revelations, documentaries, and media appearances that repeatedly focused on disputes with the monarchy.
A new poll by Find Out Now has revealed that most of the public is supporting the King in this family feud, ongoing family feud, after Harry's bombshell BBC interview. It follows the Court of Appeal's decision to not overturn the ruling on his security in the UK.
Over time, critics argue that this constant spotlight on royal conflict has dramatically shifted public opinion across Britain. Many observers now say the public mood has noticeably hardened.
William is reportedly formulating a plan to finally strip Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their HRH title.
The patience that once existed around the situation seems to be fading, replaced by sharper opinions and louder debates. The message some voters are repeating is very direct. If someone chooses to leave the royal institution and openly challenge it, they should not continue carrying a title that represents it. That is why the pressure building inside Parliament is not happening in isolation. Lawmakers are responding to a wave of frustration that many believe has been growing across the country for years. Then there is the business side of the debate, which has added even more fuel to the controversy.
It's my pleasure. It's a big news story. As you can imagine over here, it really has, the phone hasn't stopped ringing, put it that way.
And in terms of your initial reaction to this latest news, that in fact it feels like it's a full removal in the sense of not just senior royal duties, but...
Over the past few years, Harry and Meghan have signed several major media deals. These included projects connected to Netflix, Spotify, and large publishing ventures. Critics often point out that the titles Duke and Duchess of Sussex frequently appear in headlines tied to those projects. To skeptics, that does not look like coincidence. Instead, they believe it looks like a calculated strategy, and that perception is exactly what has pushed this entire debate closer to a boiling point.
We'll see King Charles do this because he's not confrontational. I don't think that he likes the fact that he's been accused of racism towards his grandchildren in Omid Scobie's book. So I think he's going to continue to tiptoe.
Some critics have even started using another sharp phrase to describe what they believe is happening: title trafficking. By that, they mean the idea that royal status could be helping boost books, documentaries, and media projects, while at the same time presenting a life that is supposed to be more private. That argument has been spreading across talk shows, newspapers, and political discussions. For critics, the situation feels deeply contradictory, and they say the public is no longer ignoring it. Another issue that often comes up is the continued use of royal titles connected to the family. Even though Harry and Meghan stepped away from official royal duties, those titles still appear frequently in headlines and public conversations. Supporters argue that titles are part of heritage and personal identity. Critics, however, say it sends mixed signals. In their view, it makes the departure from royal life look less like a clean break and more like a carefully managed brand decision. And that is exactly why some voices in Parliament now say the issue needs to be addressed directly. Clearly, for many lawmakers, royal titles were never meant to function as marketing tools. Historically, those titles represent duty, service, and a deep connection to the institution of the monarchy itself. They carry centuries of tradition behind them.
Brothers surrounding Prince Harry and Prince William, and what this change in senior roles for Harry and Meghan means for that particular relationship.
We immediately went into the trenches together.
Yeah.
So, when critics start arguing that a royal title is being used mainly for media influence, the reaction becomes intense very quickly. Some commentators have even said the situation risks making the title look less like a historic honor and more like a promotional label. For traditional royal watchers, that idea crosses a serious line and raises major concerns about protecting the dignity of the monarchy.
Now, Meghan, just last week, she did her first long-form sit-down podcast interview. She showed a basket that she had sent to the host of the podcast as a thank you for allowing her to come on. And here you can kind of zoom in here and it says, with the compliments of Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex.
What makes this situation even more dramatic is the reaction from the palace itself. Buckingham Palace has largely remained silent throughout the debate. King Charles III has not publicly stepped in to defend Harry during this controversy. And many royal observers believe that silence is very deliberate. Instead of appearing as a father personally confronting his son in public, the palace may be allowing the wider system, Parliament, public debate and royal tradition, to handle the situation naturally.
Harry and Meghan, they have an issue when it comes to their memory and when it comes to the truth.
Then there is Prince William, who many believe is strongly focused on protecting the long-term stability of the monarchy. According to several royal commentators, he has not publicly pushed back against the political discussion either. For him, and for many figures inside royal circles, the issue may be less about family drama and more about safeguarding the institution itself. And if Parliament ever did move forward with removing the title Duke of Sussex, the impact would be enormous. It would not simply be a minor change on paper. It could dramatically reshape Harry's public identity and the way he is viewed across the world. The influence, the royal connection, the powerful mystique tied to that title, all of it could shift almost overnight. And that possibility is exactly why so many people are watching this situation so closely. Critics say the entire public image surrounding Harry and Meghan has increasingly revolved around royal drama rather than royal duty.
Or the monarchy means for the monarchy.
Well, people are talking about it being a constitutional crisis, and I'm not sure it is a constitutional crisis. I mean, through circumstance and the Cambridges having 3 children, Harry slipped down from being the spare to the heir to the 6th.
In their view, the headlines, the interviews, and the media projects all seem to circle back to one central theme: their connection to the monarchy. The major interviews, the streaming deals, the documentaries. Many commentators argue that the royal link sits right at the center of all that attention. According to them, the global fascination largely comes from that connection to the royal family. And that leads to a question critics keep raising again and again. What would happen if the royal titles were no longer there?
With King Charles on his way out, Prince William is expected to take over the crown. And apparently at the top of his list is to say, "Peace out, Meghan, you're done." And he plans to formally strip Meghan Markle of her royal title.
Some observers believe the story would suddenly look very different without the Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles attached to their names. In that scenario, critics say the couple would simply appear as public figures, sharing personal experiences rather than figures tied to a historic royal legacy. Supporters strongly disagree with that view, of course. But inside political circles and royal commentary, the debate has clearly intensified. For some lawmakers, the issue goes beyond tradition alone. They argue the real question is whether royal titles should continue carrying global influence if the relationship with the monarchy has fundamentally changed. That is why discussions in Parliament have increasingly focused on protecting the institution itself.
There has been a crisis in the Windsors, not least how the Sussexes chose to release this news, but also the narrative that we've had in the fallout, that the couple were very unhappy, that apparently it was a very toxic environment, particularly for Meghan.
History also shows that action like this is not completely unheard of. Back in 1917, King George V approved the Titles Deprivation Act, a law that allowed royal titles to be removed from family members who supported nations that were enemies of Britain during wartime. That moment proved that in rare and serious situations, both the monarchy and the government can step in when they believe the integrity of royal titles is at risk. There are also more modern reminders that royal status can change very quickly. Prince Andrew, for example, stepped back from royal duties and lost several honorary military roles and patronages following major public controversy. Moments like that reinforce a message often repeated by royal historians. The institution of the monarchy always comes before any individual member.
The hypocrisy is beyond anything I've ever seen.
And now some members of Parliament are openly questioning whether Harry should continue holding a royal title while living overseas and speaking critically about the monarchy. Lawmakers arguing this point say the legal framework already exists. Public debate is growing louder, and in their view, the issue deserves serious attention rather than being ignored. If anything were ever to move forward, the final decision would not come from dramatic headlines alone. It would unfold through formal procedures, debates inside historic parliamentary chambers, careful legal steps, and official decisions made quietly behind the scenes. And if the title Duke of Sussex were ever removed, it would mark a massive turning point in the long and complicated story between Prince Harry and the monarchy. After the interviews, the memoir, the podcasts, and even the legal battles, many observers believe this moment could become one of the most significant chapters in the entire saga. For years, the conflict between Prince Harry and the royal institution has played out across headlines around the world. Every interview, every documentary, every revelation added another layer to the story. But now the conversation has shifted somewhere far more serious, into political chambers and national debate. If Parliament ever decided to act on the question of his title, it would represent a dramatic moment where a centuries-old system draws a clear line around one of its most controversial modern chapters. Critics argue Harry did not simply step away from royal life. In their view, he left the system and then repeatedly challenged the monarchy in public through interviews, media projects, and his memoir, Spare.
Now, a staggering 2/3 of Brits are calling for Harry and Meghan to be stripped of their HRH titles.
Brat, to be honest, and very, very entitled.
That constant spotlight on royal disputes turned him into a powerful global voice for some audiences. But for others, especially back in the United Kingdom, it created deep frustration, disappointment, and an ongoing debate that still refuses to fade. And now those emotions are turning into louder calls for change. The debate is no longer quiet or limited to small circles. It is becoming a national conversation that keeps gaining momentum. Supporters still defend Harry strongly, saying he has every right to speak about his own experiences and share his perspective with the world. But critics argue that the debate around his royal title represents something much bigger than personal disagreements within a family. To them, the issue touches on legitimacy, identity, and who truly represents the values connected to the monarchy. That is why the petition and the political pressure surrounding it feel so symbolic for many of the people adding their names. For those critics, it is not just about removing a title, it is about sending a clear message. They believe Harry no longer represents them or the institution he once served.
He's a duplicitous, self-centered, vile, disloyal hypocrite.
Meanwhile, the monarchy itself continues to remain mostly silent. But in royal history, silence can sometimes carry powerful meaning. And now that Parliament has been pulled directly into the debate, the next chapter of this story could reshape Harry's relationship with the Crown in ways few people expected just a few years ago.
Lady who's very popular for being awful.
One thing is certain. The entire world is watching closely. And whatever happens next could change the direction of this royal saga in a very dramatic way. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who has been following the royal drama. And I want to hear what you think too. Do you believe Prince Harry should keep his title, or do you think it should be taken away? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.